Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm sitting here with my coffee, and I was just thinking about how I am never going to let anyone take away my pedestal. I will remain on my pedestal. No one's going to be able to tear it down. And a lot of people like to talk crap like, oh, you shouldn't put yourself on a pedestal, stop pedestalizing yourself. And when I say building my own pedestal, I'm not saying it like, oh my God, I look down on other people and everybody else is like trash. No, every woman should put herself on a pedestal. And the way that I like to think of it, and the question I ask myself is, what is my pedestal built upon? Like, what is holding up my pedestal? And I think back to when I was a kid, I was raised Christian, and the church always taught me the story of the wise man building his house on the rock. And then there was a man who built his house on the sand. And then I think one guy built his house on, I don't know, water or something. So basically, when I use the term house, that's going to be like my pedestal. So if my pedestal is built on a rock, like something sustainable, then it's not going to fall over. But if I build my pedestal based on sand, which is based on shallow things that kind of blow away with the wind, it's just kind of based on trends, it's based on whatever's hot right now. So, like if a storm comes or if some other material is like stronger now, then my whole pedestal, aka my self esteem, my energy, my feelings about myself, it's all going to come crashing down. And so I like to think of my pedestal as a house. So, like, I'm inside of the house, and the outside of the house kind of represents my beliefs about myself. So, my beliefs about my own beauty, my beliefs about my own worthiness, my beliefs about my value. Everything that I really need is already inside of the house. All of those, all that self esteem and stuff, that comes from inside. My sense of beauty, like appreciating my own beauty, my sense of love and validation, it already comes from within. And I know I'm going to sound really cliche, but I've noticed that for me personally, I have spent my life chasing after emotions. So, for example, when I was in my early 20s, I really wanted to get a job in journalism. I really wanted to work at a particular news station. And the reason I wanted to work at the news station was because I knew that if I could get promoted from intern to staff member, that I would feel so confident, so accomplished, so achieved. I would feel like I'm breaking barriers for women of color because I would be working at a very famous conservative news station to where if I named it, you guys would know what it is. And you guys probably hate that. It's the most hated news station. But anyway, so I really wanted to get this job at this news station because it made me feel powerful. So I was essentially chasing a feeling without realizing it. And by the way, this is not a bad thing. Realizing this has really helped me to rebuild my own sense of self-worth and self-esteem. I've noticed that a lot of the things we chase in life, it's not about that particular thing. It's about the feeling you will attain when you have that thing. So when you get that new car, how do you feel? Like, oftentimes when people say, I want a car, I want a boyfriend, I want to lose 20 pounds, it's not about the actual fat. It's not about just your body. It's about how having that body will make you feel, how it will raise your confidence and raise your self-esteem. So one thing I've learned is to have an internal locus of control. So internal locus of control means that I am an agent of change in my life. It means that I don't define myself based on external circumstances. So throughout my life, there were some things that I was able to achieve and some things that I did not achieve. And I noticed that when I was younger, let's say I didn't get a promotion, then I would feel like a failure because now I don't get to feel the emotion of feeling accomplished. Now I don't get to feel what it's like to be at the top of my game or to get promoted 5 times in 5 years. But one thing that I've learned in order to keep myself on the pedestal is to make sure that I am rock solid in my sense of self. So I'm making sure that my house is like built on the rock to the point where nothing can shake it. So even if I don't get that promotion, even if I don't get the job, or even if I don't lose the weight, I don't have a perfect body, I still have that self-esteem because a lot of people make the mistake of chasing after a certain thing because they want the emotions that are attached to that thing. And then I've noticed that for me, I've had a tendency to avoid certain things because I'm trying to avoid negative emotions. I am scared of feeling those bad emotions. I am afraid of feeling the trauma or the sadness or the betrayal. So I've noticed that some people, they won't take risks because they're afraid of what would happen if the risk doesn't work out. And the way that I feel about that is that some risks are worth taking and some risks are not. So, for example, it was worth me taking the risk to start this YouTube channel. Yes, I could have been banned from YouTube. Yes, I could have been like ostracized. I could have like had everybody unsubscribe, then I have 0 subscribers. I could have been made fun of every single day. But I didn't allow the fear of those negative emotions to stop me, because I've noticed that sometimes when we don't go after something we really want, it's because we are afraid of feeling the negative emotions if we do not achieve that thing. And so the way that I look at it is, if it's worth it to have that thing, whether it's me buying a house, me having a business, then it's worth having, even if I'm going to experience the negative emotions potentially. Because I've learned that, first of all, emotions come from inside of me. So I have had to learn to stop allowing my external circumstances to completely control my emotions. Side note, I've noticed that a lot of guys are kind of bad at emotional regulation. Like if he gets fired from his job, he falls into a depression. If a bill comes out of his account unexpectedly, he gets really sad. So I had to learn to stop allowing stuff like that to completely ruin my day. Like one negative comment on YouTube and now I'm down for the rest of the day. No, I choose to keep my pedestal high. I choose to build my house on the rock, for lack of better words. And also, I'm staying inside the house, meaning I'm focusing on myself. You know how people, they try to diss you and they're like, the call is coming from inside the house. I try to focus on myself as opposed to throwing rocks in a glass house. So that means like throwing tantrums, getting mad, getting angry because things didn't go my way. Even if you think of that metaphor that's like in the Bible, I can't believe I'm even referencing the Bible on this channel, but even if you think of that metaphor that's in the Bible, the house that was built on the sand, that house was affected by the weather. So it was affected by external circumstances. So like the weather could wash it away. It could get totally destroyed. The water could come and make it like crash down. And for me, learning emotional regulation was actually how I built my pedestal. I didn't try to build my pedestal based off of having perfection, based off of having certain material things. No, because I know that those things come and go. My pedestal that I have for myself, it's not built on whether or not a guy likes me, whether or not white men like me. You know the women that brag and say white men like me, they don't like you. Guess what? I don't build my self-esteem pedestal off of whether a random white guy likes me. My self-esteem pedestal is built on my mental health. It's built on my ability to regulate my emotions. I talk a lot about decentering men, and some of you guys ask the question, so what should I center my life around? The things that I center my life around, that represents the rock and it represents the house. Like what is shielding me? What is protecting me? So I center my life around my mental health. You guys know that. I am very adamant about making sure that I reduce stress in my life, making sure that I get away from toxic people. I work really hard to nurture myself, to affirm myself. And by the way, part of how I was able to build a solid foundation for my own pedestal is I like to affirm myself. One thing that I like to do is I will repeat compliments to myself that other people have given me, or I will create like affirmations. I feel like I'm being so cliche right now, but seriously, I really did grow up doing that. I think it is because of my kind of Christian word of faith type of background. But I have like written down affirmations about myself before. I've also done journal prompts before where I'm like, I will ask myself a question at the top of a page in a journal, like, what do I like about myself the most? And then I will fill that page with things that I like about myself. Or I will say in the journal, what physical features do I like about myself the most? And then I will start thinking about it. I like that I have endurance in the gym. I can go running for a really long time. I like that I have a strong immune system. I like that my skin is smooth. Like I will write down random things, and that helps me to internally regulate my emotions so that I don't become so attached to the outcomes of like my goals and stuff. So I still set goals for myself. I still have things that I'm working towards, but I also detach from the outcomes because I understand that pretty much everything in this life is temporary. So it's like, even if I do lose all the weight or I have a perfect six pack, that six pack is probably not going to last forever. There might be a day where I'm bloated, or there might be a day where I ate a little bit too much, or maybe I'm on my period, so I'm looking a little bit puffy. So I have learned to gradually detach myself from getting results, because I've always been in the past a very results driven person. So that's not a bad quality, but it also caused me to not enjoy the moment. It caused me to not enjoy the things that I achieved, because even if I did get that job at the news station, it's like, okay, now what? I was constantly asking myself, now what? I was constantly like trying to chase the next step. And it got to the point where I was not enjoying where I was. And so one thing I noticed was that when it came to my pedestal, I actually lacked self-acceptance, because I was only able to accept myself contingent upon me achieving something great, contingent upon me having wealth or me having status. And so I've learned that when it comes to me having my own pedestal, it's me accepting myself, accepting my position wherever I'm at in life at that time. And yes, I can still try to improve myself and stuff, but I also understand that there are certain things that maybe I can't control. Kind of like when the panini happened, when the 2020 panini happened, the epidemic, a lot of people felt very uncertain, including myself, and they felt like kind of unstable. And when I say I'm not giving up my pedestal, what I mean is I'm not going to allow anyone to lower my self-esteem, to crush my self-esteem. I'm going to build my pedestal as strong as possible. I want my self-esteem to be like this rock solid foundation. And then from there, I can build my house however I want. And the more stable that rock is, and I will use the rock to represent my self-esteem or like my self-perception. The stronger that rock is and the bigger that rock is, the bigger I can build my house, and the more I can decorate it, and I can paint it any color I want. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about pedestals, because I've noticed that in the Black women empowerment sector or just here online, when people talk about feeling like they're at the bottom, they feel like they're at the bottom because they gave everybody else a pedestal and they didn't give themselves one. And so that's why they feel like everyone else is above them. Because instead of focusing on building your own inner strength, building your own self-worth, building self-love, self-acceptance, and focusing on your mental health, working on healing your traumas, working on healing your like depression or whatever may have happened to you in the past. Instead of working on that, some people choose to focus on how pretty everybody else's house is. They're just focusing on how strong somebody else's self-esteem is, or they make the mistake of looking at the outside of the house, not knowing whether or not that house is built on a rock or built on sand. A lot of people's self-esteem is built on things that could change tomorrow. So it's like if my whole self-esteem is hinging upon whether or not I get a promotion, or, if my happiness and peace and contentment in life is hinging upon whether or not a guy wants to be in a relationship with me, then I'm always going to be living this roller coaster life. I call it the roller coaster phenomenon. So basically, other people have the power to control your emotions, and actually, people will leverage this against you. You guys have heard the men online, they'll be like, you're a 6. And that's because they are hoping that your self-esteem and they're hoping that your self-image of your beauty is based on what a man thinks of you. And so that's why they're purposely trying to put you down, because they want to be able to rip that pedestal out from underneath you. Because if they rip it out from underneath you, then you are at the bottom with them. So those men, they haven't built a pedestal for themselves. They haven't built their self-esteem on a solid foundation. And so when they see you having a positive self-image and putting your personal beauty on a pedestal, then it makes them mad. They want to tear you down. When I use the term pedestal on this channel, what I mean is self-esteem, self-perception, self-image. So what is your self-esteem made of? Like, I want to do an exercise with you right now. What is your self-esteem made of? What makes you feel confident? I know that for me, one of the foundations of my self-esteem is taking responsibility. It's taking accountability, and it is basically acknowledging the fact that I am kind of like the author of my own life. I understand that there are some external things that I can't control, but it's taking responsibility for the parts of my life that I can control. I can control what I eat. I can control how I talk to myself in my mind, how I think of myself when I look in the mirror. So yeah, I may not be able to control other people, But the foundation of my self esteem and my pedestal has always been taking responsibility. And so instead of asking society or asking other people, how should I look? How would I look the most beautiful? No, I can ask myself, how do I want to look? What is my internalized beauty standard? Forget what everybody else thinks is cute or whatever. What's my internal beauty standard for myself? How do I want to look? How do I want to move in this world? I don't care what the trends are. I don't care if everybody's joining that MLM. What do I want to do with my life? How do I want to make an income for myself? So it's taking responsibility. That is like one of the main cornerstones of my self-esteem. It's being able to acknowledge where I messed up and where I made mistakes. And I don't have to tell anybody. I don't have to go around telling everybody all of the life mistakes I made. I don't have to broadcast it. I don't have to trauma dump on anyone. But for example, I remember one of the last big mistakes that I can think of that I made was staying with a cheater. So instead of me going around complaining about his cheating, I looked within myself and I asked myself, why am I staying with a cheater? Oh, okay, so it's because he pays, he has a little bit of money or he likes to give me some money. Okay, so what is it about me? Like, why don't I believe in myself? Why don't I believe that I can make the extra money? Oh, okay, it's because I live in a city by myself. I don't have friends and family here, so it's lack of emotional support. Okay, well, why haven't I gone out and tried to make friends? Why haven't I gone out and got a therapist or something if necessary? So that, like asking myself those questions, looking within myself and taking responsibility for where I'm at in life, that helped me to overcome that situation. So when I was with that guy, what I did was I found a support group in my, there was actually a relationship support group in my city. So it was for women who have like been divorced or they've been like in domestic violence situations. So I found a local support group. I went to the support group and then I was able to receive the emotional support and strength that I needed so that I had the strength to leave that bad relationship. So instead of me blaming him, oh, well, he's a cheater, he's this, he's that. And don't get me wrong, he is. And he has his own, he had his own problems or whatever. I focused on what I could control. So that was my version of self-control. That's another foundation that I build my pedestal on. Self-control, first of all, discipline is the highest form of self-love. Having self-control will make you into a badass. Like seriously, self-control has helped me to get skinny. It has helped me to repel dusties. It has helped me to maintain boundaries. So that's what I mean when I say taking responsibility for myself, like focusing on the things I can control. That is what my pedestal is made of. And for those of you who are a little bit more into dark femininity and you like to compete, or maybe you have a competitive side, the way that I think of it is if my foundation, my self-esteem, is stronger than somebody else's, I'm probably going to have a better life experience. So you know how some people say success is the best revenge? So I agree that that can be a good form of revenge. The way that I see it is self-esteem and being unbothered. Like that is a huge flex because think of how many people cannot control their emotions. Think of how many people get depressed over a breakup. Think of how many people who are sad because of their skin tone or their hair texture or how they look, but yet they don't have the courage to change it, or they don't have the courage to admit to themselves, my internalized beauty standard is different from how I look. So now what's the next step? They're stuck at that very first step. Meanwhile, you were able to look in the mirror and say, hey, I love these parts of myself. Like these parts are perfect on me. When it comes to the tweaks I want to make, you know what? I think XYZ body type looks prettier than mine. I want that body type for myself. I want XYZ hair color for myself. I want these highlights. But a lot of people, they stay stuck at the first step. They are too afraid to admit to themselves where they need to take responsibility. And a lot of people lack the courage to build their pedestal because they're afraid of what people think. They're afraid that people will say, you don't speak to nobody. Oh, why you got on all that makeup? Why are you wearing those high heels? That person doesn't have the courage and they don't have the self-trust to actually do what they want and take their power back in this life. And so they constantly live their life with no pedestal, or metaphorically, they built their house on the sand. And so anybody can come and pour water and turn it into mud and like make their whole entire house start sinking. It's because they never had a true pedestal to begin with. They built their pedestal on small specks of sand. They built their pedestal on things that are easily shifted. Think about how sand is. Sand is easily shifted. You can literally grab some of it with your fingers and create a hole. You can dig a hole in sand just with your hands. And so the way that I like to think of my pedestal is I am the protector of my pedestal. I'm the protector and provider. So for all those people who are like, you're depending on a guy, or you think that the only way you can be protected and provided for is through a guy. No, I have taken self-responsibility. I am an adult. I am the protector and provider of my own life, because it's like, even if you're not with a guy, before you get with a boyfriend, you were single. So it's like, you're going to have to learn how to be an adult. You're going to have to learn how to be alone and actually enjoy your own company. So I have learned how to protect and provide for myself. And when I say that, what I'm saying is, how can you protect your pedestal? How can you protect your self-esteem? How can you protect your energy, protect your sense of beauty? How can you protect your self-image? And then, by the same token, how can you provide for your beauty? So the way I provide for my beauty is, I will purchase hair conditioners. I will mix different oils and put it on my hair. That's my way of providing for my beauty. A lot of people, they don't think in terms of nuance enough. How can I protect my beauty? How can I provide for my beauty? So when it comes to this protector provider thing, think about that, but with every aspect of your life. How can I protect my physical health? How can I provide for my physical health? The way I protect my physical health is I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do like substances. And the way I provide for my physical health is I purchase comfortable workout clothes for myself, so that when I am on the elliptical, I'm not wearing jeans, or I make sure that I have some t-shirts in my closet so that I can go to the gym and then I'm going to be comfortable because I'm wearing a t-shirt. That's what I mean by protecting and providing for yourself. So you're actually taking the power out of the hands of the man or whoever else you were depending on, and you're placing that power back within yourself. You're placing that responsibility back on yourself. And another thing that was really hard for me when it came to building my pedestal was I used to be very bad at self-trust. So, does this makeup look good on me? Does this hairstyle look good on me? Am I pretty enough? Am I smart enough? Am I XYZ enough? Whatever society wants me to be, or whatever I think they want me to be. So I used to struggle a lot with self-trust, and I would say part of that trauma actually did come from my religious background, because in my religion, in Christianity, they teach you do not trust in yourself. They say, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. So I took that to heart, and I would not, I would think of an idea and it would be a really good idea, like a business idea or whatever, but then I would not do it. I would not jump on it. I wouldn't try anything new. I didn't have courage. I lacked courage because I lacked self-trust. I was focusing on some external entity to come and make those things fall in my lap, or, to kind of magically set things up so that I could finally start my YouTube channel. I used to wait for signs and stuff. Basically, it was kind of fear-based. Looking back, I felt like subconsciously I was afraid of other people questioning me. I was afraid of being disliked. I was afraid of people talking crap about me starting a YouTube channel. I was afraid of people talking crap about me wearing lipstick or wearing extensions. And so when it came to self-trust, that was a part of my pedestal that I wasn't able to build until I got older. Self-trust leads to having courage. So for example, when I started this YouTube channel, do you know how many people came against the talking points? You can't use the word exotical because you're not white. Oh, being exotic, that's bad. It means that everybody's fetishizing you. You shouldn't allow XYZ type of women on this channel. So I had to learn how to build self-trust, because if I didn't, this channel wouldn't exist, or I would have changed it 27 times, or I would have just followed every trend. I would constantly be behind because I would have had no inner creativity. I wouldn't have been able to rely on my own creativity. So one of my problems in the past was I didn't believe in my own creative ideas. I believed that other women were more creative than me, other women were better than me, and they were on the pedestal when it came to creativity. They were more creative, they were better businesswomen, they were just superior to me in those areas. So I literally had an entire inferiority complex regarding my creativity. So I was not able to build my pedestal when it came to creativity, like doing my own fashion looks, even if I've never seen anybody else do an outfit that looks like this. So I constantly found myself in a position of following everybody. And guess what? When you're following, that means that somebody else is the leader. And sometimes you will be around people who are good leaders, other times you are around bad leaders. So I constantly found myself in a place in life where I would be bad or I would be mad at the leadership at my job. I would be mad at my parents' leadership, or I'd be mad at when I used to go to church, like my church's leadership, or just the government, whoever was in leadership. And so I had to learn to take back my own power and make myself the leader of myself. And then if other people see that and they think it's cool and maybe they want to buy something from my business, or, they want to give me an opportunity, then they can. But I started to become detached from the outcome because I knew deep down inside, okay, now I have built self-trust. I trust myself. I trust my ability to create good YouTube videos. I trust my ability to create a beautiful makeup look. I trust my own beauty. So I'm willing to go out for that modeling gig because I trust that I will get a booking. And even if I don't get all of the bookings, I trust that at some point I will get some sort of opportunity. And somebody out there, somewhere, out of all the billions of people in the world, will be able to see and appreciate my beauty. Because that's another thing I've noticed, that some people, they get discouraged if a door closes on them, or like if they don't get a job or something. And I used to be like that too. That was back when I put the job on the pedestal. I put the modeling gig on the pedestal. I put the brand deal on the pedestal instead of putting myself on the pedestal. And so if I put a brand deal on the pedestal and that brand rejects me, well, now I feel like trash, or I feel like I'm at the bottom. I feel like I'm a victim, basically, because this brand over here, this makeup brand, is on the pedestal. And so one thing I've learned is to constantly be building myself up and constantly be building my own pedestal, because other people, smart people, are going to put themselves on a pedestal. They are going to believe in themselves. Like, smart people know how to believe in themselves. Confident women, they know how to, they know how to work on themselves, take responsibility, and take risks. And so the way that I see it is I can either move forward or be left behind. And also, another thing that helped me to build my pedestal was accepting every part of myself, because oftentimes people want to take you off of your pedestal. They want to take you off of your square by naming negative qualities about you. And oftentimes, the qualities that they will name will be things that are true. They will say, oh, well, you're just seeking after power, or you're controlling, or you don't like yourself. Like, they will name qualities that are actually true. But one way that I was able to take back my power is I embrace and I accept every single one of my flaws. I accept every single one of my insecurities. And guess what? If I have already acknowledged those things about myself and accepted that part of myself, then nobody can take me down a notch. Nobody can put me down. Because one of the things that people have called me as a negative thing is, oh, you're a clout chaser. She's such a clout chaser. She just wants to be seen. She just wants to, like, kind of move up or whatever. And I have learned to embrace that quality about myself. Sure, it could totally be a negative quality. I think that absolutely could be a negative thing. But guess what? I am not a perfect human being. And so if you think that's a negative quality, that's fine. Then just don't engage in that quality. But I have learned how to almost alchemize my negative qualities and use them to my advantage. So for example, my clout chasing streak that I have in me, I've learned how to use my clout chasing skills to gain subscribers on YouTube, to gain followers on Instagram, to, do different things to motivate me so that I can move up in this world. Because yes, I embrace the fact that I care about my position in society, meaning my socioeconomic status, the neighborhood I live in. Yes, I do like to be in luxury coffee shops and stuff like that. So if that makes me a clout chaser, then you know what? So be it. That's fine. I have no problem embracing negative qualities about myself. Another thing that I used to get told that was a flaw was, you're controlling. I embrace that flaw about myself as well. You're absolutely right. I do think that I can sometimes be controlling. And the way that I am able to deal with that flaw is I control myself. So I don't try to control others. Like, when I was younger, I used to be very upset because there were certain things I couldn't control, and I used to get mad and stuff. But I've learned to use my flaw of being controlling. I use that to develop an internal locus of control. So all of that controlling energy, all of that psycho energy or whatever, I've learned how to use that on myself by developing self-control. So no, I can't control what others do, but I can control what I eat. I can control my budget, my money. I can do that with myself as opposed to trying to manipulate a man to spend his money on me. That's much harder and it's much more like taxing. It's much more mentally taxing to try to use my charm or whatever to control others. So I've learned to utilize my flaws in the best ways that I can, or I've learned to try to use those things to like enhance my life. Another thing that I've been told before is I'm a bitch, or I'm bitchy, or, I'm kind of like nice, nasty, or like I'm shady, or I'm a snake. And I fully embrace that flaw about myself. Yes, I can totally be shady sometimes. I totally make snide remarks, but the way that I've learned to utilize that in my favor is by starting a shit-talking YouTube channel. Now I get to vent all of my shit-talking. I get to say whatever I want, and this is my place where I can be, my little snarky self, where I can put my little jokes in there. I can be nice, nasty. So I have found an outlet for my flaws. And I've learned how to utilize those flaws in a positive way. And also, I've learned how to put boundaries around my flaws. So, for example, I used to not be able to put boundaries around my flaws. So, with my controlling behavior, even though I was using it for self-control, I would struggle with things like working out too much or kind of like almost abusing my body, kind of like eating disorder sort of thing. So even though I had turned that flaw inward, I didn't have boundaries on how to utilize that flaw. And so I've just learned how to put boundaries around it. So let's say your flaw is that you are a very critical person. You criticize other people. Usually people will turn that flaw inward. Some people won't. But usually people will, instead of criticizing others, they just criticize themselves or they critique themselves. But the way that I can build a boundary around my flaw of being critical is I can use my self-critic to give myself constructive criticism. Like, okay, my body, like I'm not doing my workout correctly. How can I learn how to have better form in the gym? So that's utilizing a flaw and almost alchemizing it into something that is helping you. And also, let's be honest, we live in a very messed up, very flawed society. So I can't stand when people make it like we live in a utopia, like, oh, everyone should just accept everyone and like everybody is equal. No, that's not reality. So I know that we wish that it was, and I really wish that I could like change the world today and make everybody into this perfect angel, but I'm not. Like, that's not the world I live in. And so there are certain sectors in this world where your flaws will actually get you ahead. For example, liars, they tend to thrive in politics. People who are charming and deceitful, they tend to thrive when it comes to getting women to sleep with them. Or, so there are certain areas where, unfortunately, because our society is messed up, there are areas in this life where you can utilize those flaws and they will help you to get ahead. For the people who have that snake personality, Hollywood is filled with snakes. You will do fantastic if you have that in your personality. If you have that flaw, go to Hollywood, or you can become one of those like TMZ reporters. The people that like call in and they like make money because they told on their friend and stuff. So, and by the way, this is just dark femininity right here. Okay, I'm just telling you that even your flaws can actually be utilized in a certain way to help you. But I would say be careful with that. But then again, not everybody has the same morals anyway. So people are going to lie to you. The main people that lie are companies. Like, companies will lie to you in the interview and say, this is a great place to work. It's like family here. There are plenty of opportunities for growth. And they know that that's a lie. They're just saying that so that you will want to work for them. They're saying that so that they can hire you and then underpay you for your labor. And then they can continue building themselves up off of the backs of those who are beneath them in the company. So I'm tired of people trying to moral police and virtue signal and pretend like everybody should be Jesus or Mother Teresa. It's like, that is not how everybody's going to want to be. Like, yes, if you want to be a nun and do that in the church, great. Yes, those things work really well in the church. Living in caves and meditating all day and having no money, you don't have any bills or anything. So yeah, of course you don't need this sort of advice because you are operating in a part of society that caters to your personality type. So that's another thing that I mean when I say social climbing too. It's, who do I want to be in society? What part of society do I thrive in? Do I thrive in an urban neighborhood? Do I thrive in the black neighborhoods? Do I thrive at an HBCU? Do I thrive at a PWI or an Ivy League college? What part of society best fits the culture of my personality? Like, what culture in society fits the type of person I want to be? So for me, I feel like yoga is like my vibe. So I like going to yoga classes because I feel like that fits with my personality. So going to yoga classes is actually a form of social climbing for me because I like the vibe of wearing my cute little, kind of expensive yoga pants and my little bra and having my little pink yoga mat. So that goes with my personality type. For some of you guys, you thrive in a big city. Other women thrive when they are more isolated. So when I'm talking about, building these pedestals and kind of like utilizing it to build yourself up and making this big pretty house for yourself and kind of navigating through society, that's what I mean. There are many different aspects of society. I'm so tired of people pretending like society revolves around whiteness. It revolves around rich people. It revolves around pretty people. No, that's just one aspect of society. There are billions of poor people. So what are you talking about? The world doesn't just revolve around, oh, the only option is like rich people. No, there are plenty of people who are poor. There are many parts of society that are poor. There are some people who will spend their lives being poor. So let's be realistic here, okay? And by the way, it's good to have goals. It's good to shoot for the stars, but there are many different lifestyles you can choose to live. The way that I see it is some things will work for a season. So, in college, I liked being in college for 4 years though. I didn't want to stay in college and be a super senior. I didn't want to be a super senior in high school. Those things were good for my social climbing process just for that short period of time. But the way that I build my pedestal and maintain it is I think about how I want to feel. And this is actually something they teach for those of you who are into like manifestation or whatever. This is something that they teach over there in that sector. They think about like or they talk about what emotion you want to feel. How do you want to feel when you are a millionaire? What emotion are you chasing? Okay, you want to feel abundant. You want to feel peaceful. You want to feel secure and financially stable. How can you cultivate those feelings right now? How can you feel more financially stable right now, today, in this moment? The way that I feel richer is by limiting the amount of times I go out with friends. I have limited my going out to once a week because that makes me feel more financially free, knowing that, okay, I'm not spending a bunch of money every single day. I'm not spending $100 per day. So I've still been able to manifest that feeling of like abundance. But then there are some times where getting a coffee from a luxury coffee shop, that makes me feel abundant. And so this ties back into fluid identity. So fluid identity, it doesn't just have to apply to your racial background or being mixed. Fluid identity can apply to the habits that you have or like the lifestyle that you live, because I know that for me, too much routine actually makes me prone to depression. If all I do is just get up, work, come home, sleep, repeat for the next 20 years, that is going to make me depressed. Like knowing that I'm just going to live this robotic life and it's just going to be mundane, that is not going to make me happy. So a part of building my pedestal for myself is I like to build it based on the things that make me happy inside, like the things that make me feel good, things that make me feel beautiful, things that make me feel confident. And I understand that like self-esteem and having a pedestal, it's not built in a vacuum. So I do understand that like your friends, your family members, and the people around you, they influence how you feel about yourself. And so that's part of why I like to remove myself from toxic people. A lot of people say go where you're celebrated. So it's like I don't get mad at mixed race women if they listen to music by rappers that are saying, I like a girl that's a red bone or something. Like I don't really get mad about that because I mean, if that truly makes you feel good, like if Lil Wayne is really your type or whatever, and that makes you feel confident, in my opinion, that's no different than country music where they sing all the time about blonde hair and blue eyes, or they sing about brunettes, or they sing about girls that have red hair. I don't feel inferior because a song is talking about blue eyes, but if it is, then I will just switch the song. I will change to a song that uplifts me. By the way, I do have a whole baddies like playlist on my phone. It's mostly female rappers and kind of like women bragging about themselves. But anyway, that helps to build my pedestal. That helps me to feel like I am the baddest bee in my world. But when it comes to pedestals, we put things on a pedestal because we admire those things for what they are and for how they look and for the history they carry and for what those things represent. Think about a museum. You put stuff on a pedestal in a museum. Why? Because that thing that's on a pedestal, it's important, it is beautiful, it stands out, it is a work of art, it is a masterpiece or a beautiful sculpture. So when I talk about putting myself on a pedestal, it's about seeing myself as a work of art or seeing myself as a masterpiece or even seeing myself as an antique when I get old or something like that. Like just seeing myself as valuable, knowing the history of myself. That's the way that I look at pedestals. It's like you put something on a pedestal when it's rare, you put something on a pedestal when it's valuable. Think about like trophies at a tournament. They put the trophies on a pedestal. Think about when a person goes up to preach or when a person goes up to do a concert. That stage is a pedestal. Why do they go on that pedestal? It's because you want to be able to see them. That person wants to be seen, that person wants to be heard, and that person has something important to say, they have something important to do, or they are doing their passions on that pedestal, on that stage. They're performing, they're singing, they are playing an instrument. So that's the way I think of pedestals. I like to think of it like, hey, how can I build my own stage for myself so that I feel like I'm the star in my own life, as opposed to being in the back seat in my own life, or being in the audience in my own life, just letting everybody else pass me by. So that's what I mean when I say putting something on a pedestal or putting yourself on a pedestal. It means me celebrating my own uniqueness. And so one of the main ways that I've been able to celebrate my own uniqueness is not just with beauty, but with my desires, or like with my with what I want to do with my life. Did you know that when I was a kid, when I was like 7 years old, you know how they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Influencer was not an option. Content creator was not an option. And so I had to learn as I got older that my desires are unique. I don't necessarily want to have the same job as everybody else. I don't necessarily want to dress like everybody else. So I've learned to respect my own uniqueness, respect my unique desires. There are some women who want to get into 50-50 marriages. They want to have kids or be a stay-at-home mom. That happens to not be my unique desires. So I've learned to respect myself, respect what I actually want, and build my own pedestal instead of trying to take a pedestal that somebody else gave me. Because if somebody else gives you that pedestal, there's going to be some point where like you don't feel comfortable on it, or like it doesn't work for you, it doesn't fit you, it doesn't fit like your lifestyle and what you're trying to do and who you're trying to be, or they may require you to be something you're not in order to maintain that pedestal. So the main way that I've learned to have my own sense of confidence and self-esteem is by building my own unique pedestal that is only formulated for me, because I'm the only one that knows my deepest desires. I'm the only one that carries my memories. I'm the one that has my personal dreams and goals. And so if I build myself a pedestal, nobody can take it away. Nobody can tear it down. As long as I protect my pedestal by setting boundaries and I refuse to get off of it, then no one can take it away. So you know how people are like, oh, Exoticals United is starting a YouTube channel because mixed race women or lighter skinned black women, they're off the pedestal. Nobody's off of a pedestal over here. Instead of me begging to be mentioned on someone else's pedestal, their YouTube channel, I decided to create my own YouTube pedestal. So that's another thing. It's like, what is your pedestal made out of? Is it made out of what others think of you? Is it made out of, like, did you try to take a piece of somebody else's pedestal and add it to your own? Because that's not an authentic pedestal. It's like, no, I'm not going to beg others to represent me. I'm not going to beg others to put me on their pedestal or to give me my moment to shine up on their pedestal. How about I create my own stage? How about I utilize my creativity to make myself succeed, or to make myself feel beautiful, or to make myself feel important, instead of hoping and wishing and begging and crying because other people don't make me feel important. Nobody's going to be able to make you feel as important as you can make yourself feel. Also, one thing that I like to do is I like to close my eyes and envision myself stepping outside of my body, and then I will like start saying positive things about myself, like, wow, you are so good at YouTube. Wow, you're so articulate. You're so beautiful. It's very similar to mirror gazing or people who look in the mirror and they compliment themselves. I do that as well. Or sometimes I will create like a different character in my mind. Like I will just imagine myself walking down the street and I will imagine other people saying, wow, your outfit is so cute. Oh my gosh, look at that girl. She's so beautiful. Wow, she is so smart. She's so talented. So that's another way that I kind of put myself on a pedestal. Also, by like journaling, writing down positive qualities that I love about myself. Or if I don't have that many qualities that I love about my life right now, then I will write down what my goals are and how I plan to attain those goals. And then another thing I've done, this is kind of like the dark femininity side coming out. So I used to have these girls that would like bully me. By the way, side note, I kind of feel like churches are filled with mean girls sometimes. But anyway, so there was this one girl, she used to constantly make comments, whether it's about my hair, my makeup, my outfit, whatever. You know those people that like nag you, they try to take you down a notch when you didn't even do anything wrong to them. You were trying to be nice to them. I remember, I'll never do this again, but I used to be nice to this particular group of girls literally for 3 years. I was basically chasing after them, being as nice as possible, trying to like kind of soothe their jealousy. And I remember one day I just got fed up. And so my revenge was I did a journal prompt where I was like, what qualities do I have that Sarah doesn't? Like, let's just put it all out on the table right now. What qualities do I have that Sarah could potentially be jealous of? And I started writing down like so many different things. And I didn't even realize how many different qualities I potentially had that could have been jealousy triggers. For example, she wanted to work in the same field as me and she was unable to get a job. And I was able to get a job and I had just got a promotion. She heard about that. Another thing is, it was her dream to go to university and to like get a degree. She did not complete hers because she ended up like with this guy or whatever. She moved in with the guy, then she got pregnant by the guy or whatever. So basically, that guy, I don't want to say he held her back, but pretty sure that's what happened. So I remember writing that down. I remember writing down like different qualities that I had. So with my hair, the only difference I could think of was like she wanted her hair to look like mine, or at least that's how I felt sometimes, because she would be whispering to others, like, how did she do her hair? Instead of simply complimenting me and asking me personally, because I'm 5 feet away from you, you could have asked me, hey, I really love your hair. Like, how did you do it like that? Like, how can I get my hair to look like that? Nope. She instead decided to try to copy every single hairstyle. And you guys know I like to wear unique hairstyles. So it wasn't just like a basic, I don't know, like a wet bun or something. It's like, no, I would specifically do maybe like a flexi rod set and then put it in like a pineapple, but then I would do my bangs a certain way. Or I would sometimes wear like a faux bang. And then other times I would use like different hair colors or different like clip-ins to do highlights. So these were very specific hairstyles to where it's like, it was not a common hairstyle. You would have had to go out and purchase different extensions or different hair colors and stuff in order to get it to look like mine. I also remember writing down that this girl dyed her hair so that it could look like mine. And this was after this girl, she accused me of like dyeing my hair black. My hair is naturally black. But because my hair can be very, very shiny, like when it's wet, and also I use secret gels and stuff. Like I have specific gels that I use that I know will create an extremely high shine on my hair to where it literally looks like plastic or something. Like that's the look that I like. I don't care what anybody thinks. I love the slick back type of look. So anyway, I have my own secret way of making my naturally shiny hair appear shinier. So I remember people kind of talking and being like, "Oh, she dyed her hair. Like she has black hair and then she dyed it black again to make it shinier," which is a method that some girls use. Like you can do that, but I happen to not do that because I don't want to dye my hair because I don't want to start dyeing it until I get grays, because I know that dyeing your hair sometimes it can make it thin and stuff. So it's like I want to keep my virgin hair as healthy and as thick as possible so that I'm not processing it and chemically, dyeing it. I don't want to have fried hair by the time I'm in my 50s and 60s, so I don't dye it. But anyway, so these girls, they were like trying to figure out how I got my hair a certain way. So I remember journaling about that. Like this girl, she spent all this time, all these months trying to figure out how I did my hair and kept on attempting and failing to copy it because she simply had a different hair texture. She simply had a different length of hair. She had a different, I don't know, face. And so it didn't frame like my hairstyles. I specifically do my bangs and like the front of my hair. I specifically measure out the length of my bangs, like if I'm wearing extensions or something, or I've even cut my hair into layers to frame my particular face. And so I know, like, hey, if I do a bang here, it's going to make my face look more square. If I do a bang there, it's going to make my face look more heart shaped. If I do XYZ updo, it's going to accentuate my ears. So I'm very like particular. It's one of my beauty hobbies, basically. So I'm very particular with how I style my hair to frame my face and like where my eyes are on my face, where my cheekbones are, where my lips are. Sometimes I want to accentuate my lips and draw more attention to that part of my face. So I will wear like bangs and try to manipulate my hair so that the bang falls right next to my lip so that when you're looking at me from the side, you can see my curl on the side of my face and you also see my red lips. So I'm very particular. Like I know if somebody is copying it. That's why I say that my hairstyles are unique because even where the curls fall on my face, I have planned that out. I would like get bobby pins and stuff and try to bobby pin the top of my hair to make it slightly shorter so that the curls fall directly where I want them to fall. Or like, just anyway, this is the stuff you learn on YouTube. But I remember writing that down in my journal, and that was my form of revenge. I didn't say anything to her. I did not put her down. I did not like be mean to her. I didn't put anything on social media, but that was my form of getting revenge at that time. I just wrote down, these are all the qualities that I have that I think she could potentially be jealous of or be triggered by. And I didn't realize that there were so many different things. And to be honest, I felt so much better after that because some things you can vent to others about, but there are other things where it's like I didn't feel comfortable venting about somebody that I knew to other people who knew both of us. I didn't feel comfortable venting about that, but I also didn't feel like it was important enough for me to go to a therapist and talk about it. So that was my way of just getting it all out on the table. Kind of like how people write letters to their ex or to someone they don't like or whatever, and then it's like they get it off the table even though they didn't send the letter. I was kind of doing that same thing. So that was one of my ways of keeping myself on the pedestal or like taking back pieces of my pedestal that others tried to chip away. So sometimes I like to look at myself from kind of an outer body perspective and compliment myself the way that others would, or other times in my mind, I will imagine my hairstyle, my makeup on my favorite celebrity or someone who looks like me. And I'd be like, okay, if Aaliyah was wearing this exact hairstyle, how would I think she looks? Okay, I would think she looks drop dead gorgeous. Therefore, I look drop dead gorgeous. And so those were like some of the small ways that I would build my self-esteem. Or instead of not appreciating my body, I would say things like, okay, how would I feel? Like, what would I think if my friend was 5'9" and slim? What would I think about her body? Oh, well, I would think she looks good. Okay, so then why am I attacking my body right now? That means that I look good. If a 5'9" slim body looks good and that's what I have, then it means my body looks good. So those are some other hacks and like ways that I have maintained a pedestal within myself. And also the way that I view pedestals is like I'm not trying to look at other people's pedestals and compare my pedestal to theirs and build my pedestal higher than theirs. Although I will notice if somebody has built their pedestal higher than mine. For example, Beyonce, she has built a very high pedestal for herself in terms of her talent and music and stuff. So I can still look at someone else and appreciate what they've built for themselves without feeling like, oh my God, I'm jealous or I really want that, because I don't want to be Beyonce. As much as I like her music and stuff, I don't want to be a pop star and like have to go on tours and stuff, and then I'm all tired and I'm like jet lagged and then I have to sing every day. That sounds very exhausting to me. But to her, that probably sounds fun, and she likes that obviously because she's doing it. So when it comes to building my own pedestal, I don't view it as a competition because I feel like every woman's pedestal is going to be unique. But how are you building your pedestal? How are you building up your self-esteem? Has anyone tried to chip away at your pedestal, or they accuse you of thinking you're better? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.